Welcome to Obsidian TTRPG-tutorials.com. Let's learn how to use the tool. Alright, g'day guys, and welcome back tonight to another Obsidian video. Tonight we're going to be having a look at a new plugin that's not actually released yet. It's a beta plugin that can basically be used to make character sheets. Yes, you heard me, character sheets. Anyone who's followed me for a while will know that I do not believe in making character sheets in Obsidian. Probably to specifically expand on that, if you're a dungeon master who's keeping track of all of your characters' sheets in Obsidian, like you're just creating a second full-time job for yourself. Alright, there's better tools to do it. Personally, I love Demiplane, or the same concept, D&D Beyond, right? This thing where your players, they use an external website to manage their character sheet, and as they update, it's saved to a server which you can then access and see. Alright? There are some fantastic solutions out there. Demiplane.com is doing a fantastic job of creating these fancy online digital character sheets for lots of games. I highly recommend you check that site out. However, I have made a video previously on character sheets where I said if you're a player and you want to make a character sheet for your player that you're going to manage and it doesn't have all the auto-calculating, auto-building character sheet stuff that these online tools have, right, then I say go ahead, right? Because if you're just tracking your own information and updating your own information manually, then, you know, you can definitely do that in Obsidian, and there's lots of cool ways to sort of do that. Now, what I'm showing you tonight and what I'm showing you now in front of my screen is just a set of new templates that I'm working on for my Patreon vault. So just a heads up on what you're seeing here. There is a whole bunch of these that I'm working on, and they're getting very close to being ready. So we'll have them hopefully out to the hands of the Patreons before you know it. I'm just trying to, troubleshoot some of the last issues. But tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're focusing on these components that you see on this screen in front of me. All right, and as you can see, there's some components on this note that make it look like a character sheet. So we're going to be focusing on those. All right, now this comes to us from a new plugin. It's called the DnD UI Toolkit by Haycott. All right, and for anyone who's paying attention at home, I found this through the Obsidian TTRPG community Discord server. It was shared in the showcase by Haycott. All right, he's given a link to his GitHub site where he's hosting this. Now, if you would like to install a copy of this, you can come along, and I'll have this URL in the description for the video, but you can click on this. That will take you to the GitHub site, and if you scroll down, there's some stuff here on how to quick start and how to install it. Now, this has not been released through the community plugins yet, all right, through Obsidian, so you can't just go settings, community plugins, browse. You actually have to install the Brat plugin, all right, for anyone who hasn't seen that. Brat is this plugin that lets you basically well, let's do it. I will show you. Where I will grab the URL, we'll copy it. We need Brat installed. If we come to our vault, we go settings, we go community plugins, we go browse, and we search for Brat. All right, so Brat, which is installed. All right, I've already got it. You need to install it. You need to enable it. Once you've got that installed and enabled, it actually creates this little smiley face over here. And if we click on that, it says add a beta plugin for testing. You do that, you paste in the URL, you click add plugin, and it will go through the process of enabling that for you. All right, so that's how you would get this specific one installed. Now, once you are there, I highly recommend that you actually jump into this quick start and have a look at the examples folder. The examples folder has the wizard.md. And this is what I started with. So there's a note here, and what you can do is basically download it or click into the raw version and then basically copy the contents of this note into Obsidian. All right, so if we do that, we'll copy the whole note. We'll go to Obsidian and we'll just do it in Scratch Notes. I'm gonna call it Wizard Example without all the funny caps. All right, so if you put this into render mode with the plugin installed, of course, you can see it comes up with all of this detail. All right, so these are basically, there's not a lot going on here from what I can gather, right? It's effectively, he's made some custom CSS with some little, you can see code blocks that have obviously CSS that been picked up, all right, and it's applying it. So in this case here, badges. We have an items badge. We got a level, and the value is 3. Initiative, the value is +2. Right, so it's manual, and you can see a level 3, initiative +2. It's manually basically just taking this data, which, let's be honest, is not laid out in a way you can't read. It's quite easy, and I reckon if I change the name on something, it will change the name on it, right? So it's just effectively text with a value, and then we can update those. Right, now, as a player, this is very easy for you to maintain. Okay, you can basically have this in a note. I actually like to have a break line here. All right, just that's a bit of HTML for break. It just puts a space in it. But now we basically have level 5, initiative +2, spell save, AC mage armor, right? You can really come in here and add whatever you want. And I'm willing to bet if we kept adding to this, we'll add another bit on the end. All right, so it's very customizable for you to allow you to do that. Now that's a badge or badges. All right, if we come down here, we got health points. If we have a look at that, this is the health points section. All right, so here we've got 66 out of 24. So I can put in a 10 here and I can heal myself. All right, so now we're up to max health. I can put in a 5 and do 5 damage. We come down to 19. We can add 1 temp health. All right, so now we can go up to 25. Well, it still can't go past 25, but I guess I've got the temp health there that I could take off. And it's got hit dice tracker. All right, so relatively simple. If we look under the back end of that, what's it doing? All right, we've got the health stat. We've got the dice and the value for the hit dice. So we could actually change our max health by just putting this in. All right, so it's just got a little bit of functionality there for you to keep track of your health points. And you could basically utilize that note and go from there. Now, if I go to 27 and I get out of this note and I come back in, note that it still maintains the 27. All right. Interestingly enough, it's not actually storing that value in the note itself. All right. From what I can gather, it's actually storing the value in the back end in a JSON file. And if you'd like to know where that JSON file is, you can actually come down to your settings, go to community plugins, and come down and find the DnD UI Toolkit, which is there. Hit the cog, and it actually tells you the name of the JSON file. All right, if I open up my Vault in Windows Explorer, I can see that JSON file is being stored at the root of my file, of my Vault, sorry. And basically, like, you can't see that because it's a JSON file, so it just sits there in the actual Vault. All right, so just be aware that that's by default where it seems to be storing its values. All right, so now let's have a look at this abilities section. We've got abilities and skills. If we go into edit mode, we can have a look at how this is written. So we've got abilities, that's just a heading. All right, so the ability code block in here, it says abilities with the name of the abilities. Now I've done some testing here, and this obviously is designed to work with D&D 5e. All right, so it's basically designed to work with these sort of values. And it seems to be a linking between the abilities and the skills. All right, by what I mean here is that the plugin knows which skills are being used by what abilities, and it's bringing the values from up in the abilities section and using those to calculate the outcome for the skills. All right, so pretty clever, but it's pretty simple as well. All right, so you've just got the core 6 abilities in there, and you just literally type the value of whatever that ability is. All right, so I can change strength to 14. It says 14 gives me a +2 bonus, and on saving rolls it gives me a +2. All right, so that's very simple. Now, I did that as a strength. What's going to be a strength? What are these, I imagine? Acrobatics +2, that'll be dexterity. What if we go to 20? What happens on dexterity? There we go, goes to a +3. All right, so there's definitely a linkage between these and there. All right, so that's very clever. Now down here, that's abilities. We've got proficiency as well, so we can actually come down here and say, oh, well, we're proficient in strength. All right, if we come in here, all right, you can see now that's got a +4 on that because we're proficient on it. All right, so very, very easy. If we have a look at skills, all right, it's basically you're not listing all the skills you have, you're listing the skills you're proficient at. All right, so if we want to be proficient at stealth, we'd come down here, we'd write stealth, And if we now come back into reading mode, we can see stealth has a green tick on it, and the skill bonus has increased as a result of that. All right, so again, very simple, very easy to manage and maintain as a player. Now there's another thing here called a consumable, and this is quite handy. A consumable lets you define the name of something, all right, and then whether or not you've got some sort of tracking capability within it. All right, so very handy for spell slots. All right, we can say we've got a level 1 and we've got 4 uses, and we can basically store that in here. All right, now what it's doing here is we've got the name. This appears to be a value that it's saved in. All right, so it saves to the JSON file. It's saving under here. So if you're going to add one of these things like I'm going to do now, you need to make sure you give it a unique value to save under. So let's call it at level 4. We're going to change this to 4, so didn't spell 4, and we're going to say there's 10 uses. We render that, we've got 10 level 4 spell slots, and you can see here we can keep track of how many we've got left very quickly and easily, and it's just visually appealing. Now that doesn't have to be used the way we're doing it there. You can see you can use it just sort of on its own. All right, so we're keeping track of some of the different abilities that we have. Down here, it's been used again for luck points. All right. Now, just a reminder, this is all in that wizard example, right, that we showed you where to get from the GitHub site. So yeah, as you can see, these are really quite usable. Wherever you've got something that you're tracking, that you've got a certain amount of them, you could just add one of these little code blocks to your note, make some very small changes, and then be storing that information for future use. Then as a player, you don't even have to worry about it, right? You're using this, and it's storing those values in that JSON file so you can later use. So yeah, very easy. Okay, so here's the new player template that I'm making for the Patreon role. All right, and as you can see, I'm utilizing a few things here, quite a few things. ITS theme for the callouts in different areas. I'm using SailKite's tab CSS. We'll make a video on that separately. And I'm using, obviously, Haycott's DnD UI Toolkit. All right, so there's lots of components coming together in this note. And basically, what I've done is I've made it so it's all sort of laid out in an easy way. I've got a configuration screen so you can keep track of races and classes and all that sort of stuff. Some of it's obviously still in the creation process, but it is getting there. But as you can see, some of these things are obviously displaying what we just showed. Now the difference, however, is that if we come up here, you'll see that I've got some note properties. And if we have a look at our HP, I think we've got a max of 66 currently. If we heal up to 66, we're now at max health. All right, so we're gonna -1 temp health. How do you get rid of temp health? I don't know. Can I just do 1 damage and just take away the temp health? Yeah, there we go. That makes sense. All right, so up here though, I've got my HP. What if I level up to 100 health? All right, you'll see it shows, oh, there we go. It's already updated. So now we can heal. All right, so I've managed to link some of these things, and you see the level here is taken over. The hit points took over. We can actually go to level, let's go to level 10. Does that update automatically? Yep, level 10. All right, so I've managed to link some of these things up into the actual properties of this note. How did I do this, you ask? Not easily. That's the true answer. Not easily. All right, it wasn't too hard. I went and had a chat with old ChatGPT. I know there are lots of people out there hate ChatGPT, but where it's getting really good is actually like small bits of code. And it's very capable of writing DataView.js. I'm using a subscription to ChatGPT, which means it's actually able to access the internet. So it's actually out there reading people's readmes and learning how to actually write this code from people's readmes now. So it's getting better. AI is here to stay, guys. I'm sorry. It's coming for all of our jobs, is my belief. So I've got to learn how to use it to stay ahead of the crowd. But I asked it, how would I basically take the syntax that's required by the DnD UI Toolkit and output that into a data view.js. Now I know I can do this, all right, because previous videos you would have seen me messing around with, let's say the person template. All right, for anyone who remembers me making the relationship chart, which is actually written in data view.js. And all I did was I used the data view.js to output the markdown format that then Mermaid picked up. All right, so it's just writing the text into my note. It's exactly the same concept here. All right, I've basically given ChatGPT the syntax that I needed, all right, for what I wanted to do. So in here, we've got the wizard example. I basically said, I've got this. I want to link level to a property. Can you please do that? All right, it's come back and it said, yeah, sure, we can do that. And the way to work with the AI, by the way, is like, don't be like, oh, create me a game. All right, the way to do it is to create me this part of the game. When, like, just one little section, one thing. All right, let it focus on that one thing and get it right. So I actually move one property at a time. I'm like, I want to take the level. I want to link the level to a property. And it comes back and it says, yep, here you go. And then I said, all right, well done. I want you to now add the initiative. And then I do spell, right? And I move through all the properties one at a time, just making sure that it's getting it right. And eventually it gives me the code, all right? And what this specific data view.js is doing is basically reading not reading, but it's recreating that syntax, all right? The output of this is effectively the syntax that's picked up by the DnD UI Toolkit, all right? That's it in the nuts and bolts. So that basically the data view.js says, hey, I want to pull from the properties, but then format that in this way. And then the DnD UI Toolkit comes in from the other side and says, I recognize that syntax. I'm going to now format that the way it's meant to look. So that's what's going on down here. And if you actually have a look, right, you can see dash, dash, dash badges, right? It's actually writing that syntax in the right format so it can pick it up. So that's what's going on, which means I can now connect to all of this. For anyone playing along at home, that means you can also start to use MetaBind, right? So I've now got 50 health. That's a MetaBind plugin that's now writing that up to here, which means when I come down to my HP, I now have 50 HP inside of this, right? So that's why putting the values in the properties is so powerful, right? Because I can now go MetaBind. When I make a change in a MetaBind input field, it saves it to a property. Data view.js then picks up that property's change, rewrites the note, and then that's picked up by DnD UI Toolkit. All right, so there's a whole lot going on here. And I'm sure this will not be perfect. There will be areas that will absolutely break at some point. All right, that's just the nature of what I'm doing, is I'm stringing all these things together in awesome ways. But there's going to be things that I think will not work. We'll see when I find them. All right, so that's what's going on there. And I've basically done that for as much as I can in here, right? And ultimately my objective with this was to actually link the things that are required by another plugin, Initiative Tracker. All right, I wanted the level, the HP, the AC, and the modifier. All right, because they're the four things, plus the note name that are required by the Initiative Tracker. All right, over here. It uses those things in here to set up a person. All right, so that's ultimately what I was trying to do. Because then what I can do is I can come down to settings, come into community plugins, come down to my good old initiative tracker. And if we go into the settings, we can actually create a player from this. All right, so a player. And we type the name of the note that we're going to use. So in this case, I'm going to use my template. It's going to go template-player. All right, and you can see that automatically brings in these values from the note. So that's why I wanted the level, the hit points, the AC, the modifier property in that note, right? Because that's what's used by the Initiative Tracker plugin. All right, so now that we've got that there, we can create a little party. I'm going to add my template player to the party. All right. And now if we come down here, we'll set that as the default test party. But now what we have is combat management, right? And we can actually switch party, bring in the test, and it's now bringing in that test player, and it's bringing in all those properties from this note automatically. All right. As I said, this here, so it's meta bind, saving to properties, data view.js, writing the query, DnD UI Toolkit, making it pretty, and then initiative tracker picking all that up and adding that over as a player, right? And then I'd create a party, and now I've got, you know, this interlinking flow through. Now, what that all means, what does it all mean? Like, basically, as a player, I can use Obsidian now to manage my character. When my character changes, I can come through here and I can make my changes to say I got to level 11, all right? And then I basically back to here and I can continue walking. All right, that's pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. I've also got down here the abilities and skills in a different format. Now, I don't think I've done anything really clever here yet. Right, these are just all the same. There's nothing really happening there. There is something happening here though. So the HP, I've linked this HP bar, this one up here, up to here as well. So exactly the same concept. In that basically it's a data view.js that's basically outputting that code and that query. You can see here it's writing it in there and basically replacing some of the components with information that's pulled from the properties. So yeah, there we go. Pretty cool, I think. And just to talk you through the concept of what I'm doing here, there'll be another video that follows up on these templates, but I've tried to create something that fits on a screen. All right, so you can see and action and touch all the things that you need instantly. All right, so as a character sheet goes, you know, you've got your basic high level information. You can describe your character in here. I've added a GM notes because I know some GMs are going to use this. Abilities and skills, again, DnD UI Toolkit by Haycott, looking really good. Traits, just made a tab so I can actually have the traits in here, keep track of how many of them I've used. Spellbook, you would have your spell slot section, and then down here, once I've got the CLI notes in here, I'm figuring I'm just going to write the name of the spells and have a link to them, so that way you can sort of hover and see the spell description. Inventory, I'm linking that to everything. Connections, like if you've got any quests that you're currently doing, any groups that you might be responsible for or joining, any relationships that you've got. Alright, so I'm bringing lots of things together here, and hopefully someone will find it at least interesting to learn from. Maybe I'm enjoying making it, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there we go. That's been the DnD UI Toolkit by Haycott. It's a really interesting piece of work. It's simple, it's clean. I think it would be fantastic if it could natively pull from the properties, so I didn't have to use data view.js to do what I'm doing. But conceptually, I think that in terms of character sheet creations, this is probably one of the better efforts that I've seen. All right, just because of how simple it is. All right, it's aligned with my way of thinking, right? Where as a player, you can use a note to track all the things you need for your character. All right, but Obsidian is not, in my mind, a character creation wizard, right? The people who are trying to make these buttons where you can select your class and that auto calculates all your stats and then your inventory and like it's all linked and joined. I think he can go too far, and I could think he can make a character sheet that's too hard to use. And that's why I like this. It's very simple. It's literally, I've upped my constitution, so I'm going to actually just increase that value, and then that just displays it. Like, I think there's something nice and easy in that. It's readable by anyone who's at the table, right? You know, you don't have to learn how to code in order to do that. All right, you absolutely don't. I've added code to mine, right? And I got to admit, it was more to see if I could do it than it was to do something that I'll use. I absolutely will not use this myself, okay? Just to be clear. I've got my own version over here, all right, where I'm kind of creating a bit of a Frankenstein. I'm putting in the information that I need for initiative tracker because some of that is actually required, but for the most part, I don't need it, and I'm just going to use good old demiplane inside of my notes. All right, it's easy. All right, it's quick, it looks good, and as you can see, it's just so much easier. So that's each to themselves, right? I'm happy to pay the money for that because it just works. Someone else has to troubleshoot it. Someone else has to put all the new books in there. Every day I see questions from people like, "Oh, I found this cool thing. Can you tell me how to add this custom class to this person's character sheet?" I just go and buy it. That's my way. Anyway, that has been the D&D UI Toolkit by Haycott. Yeah, check it out. If you'd like to get your own copy of this, I will include the URL in the description below. Alternatively, like if you'd like to figure out how to find this stuff for yourself, I do highly recommend everyone comes along here to Obsidian TTRPG tutorials.com. Alright, you can just do a Google for it. Come up to the site. Alright, this is my site where I keep all of my tutorials all collected. If you're watching my videos going from start to finish on YouTube, like you should stop and come back here. I'm organizing this more than I'm organizing YouTube. Alright, but up the top here, Obsidian TTRPG Community Discord. Click on the link. Alright, join our own personal community Discord, because there is thousands of people helping each other in here. Like, this is a large active group. Very friendly, get really positive feedback almost all the time, to be honest. It's been fantastic. But the showcase channel is really interesting because people are basically showcasing things that they're proud of, and that's where we found this, right? Haycott's a member of the community, come along and gone, I've done something cool, here you go. You guys can now use this. So thank you, Haycott. Absolutely amazing effort. I really enjoyed it using it. All right, there we go. That's been the D&D UI Toolkit. I'm sure some of you can use that. I'd love to see what sort of crazy things you can make with it, because it seems like it's quite customizable in some ways. Like these little things here, there's no reason why you have to use that just for D&D 5e. Sounds like you could absolutely go away and use it for another system and make something relatively pretty. But yeah, there we go. Hopefully you find that useful. If you do, please do like and subscribe. And I want to say a huge and massive shout out and thanks to all of my Patreon supporters who keep me basically engaged. Watch this space, guys. All of these templates are coming soon to the Patreon vault near you. So anyway, enjoy your night. I'll speak to you on the socials.